I openly would say it purely because I've gotten to know myself a little bit better, and I used to react in things, in situations, which I didn't know before, why I was reacting in such a way, and why was control so important to me. And often what you find, that the kind of people who would like to be in control are the people who struggled and had to do it, had to make it on their own. So control is actually about fear of losing it, of losing that control. Often they would have issues of control, of authority. They don't like taking orders. They're quite stubborn. And also, they would have two almost contrast sides to themselves. They would have a public side where they put up a front and they show that they are very, very confident. But then when they come home and privately, they would react in many different ways when they don't have control. And everybody reacts differently. They could either fall into depression if they don't have control, or they could become angry if they don't have control. How do you tend to react when you are not in control?
Well, you probably saw it
Yes.
on Big Brother. I probably got angry. And that's. I did say after Big Brother, I say it to you again now, that being under 24/7 surveillance, under pressure in a laboratory, like a guinea pig, gives results, as any experiment gives results, and the results are not always what you would like them to be. And in my case, the results are not what I would have liked them to be. I told you I turned out to be less clever than I thought I was, less able as a politician than I thought I was. A politician has to be able to suffer fools gladly. A politician has to be able to keep their mouth closed when it should stay closed, even though they really want to say something. A politician should be able to keep a sense of perspective. I knew that last point about myself already. I once read a quote about Michael Foot written by Roy Hattersley, in which he said that Michael Foot could not see a sparrow without hailing it as an eagle, or a starling without denouncing it as a vulture. And I remember when I read that quote that I thought there's something about me, something about that in me that I can get things out of proportion. I can think that someone is a bigger hero than they actually are, and I can think that someone is a bigger villain than they actually are. In other words, I'm capable of being a little too extreme in my judgments. And that became clear in the program. So, as I say, I made mistakes in the program in how I handled certain situations, how I handled certain people. And that may very well be a reaction to loss of control.
One of the things, you said that the reaction would be to get angry. What I actually noticed was that you became silent. I think there was ruler.
That's not a contradiction, of course.
No.
You could be silently angry.
Exactly. Yes, that's passive aggressive. I mean, you were very, very angry, but you were silent. And you were thinking, what do I do now? It's almost like plotting. You're planning, what's my next move? Because I don't know. How do I get out of this? Because and a lot of people actually didn't know. They couldn't quite understand you. Particularly Ruler, who was very close to you. And all of a sudden, you switched off from her. And you walked away. And she would often, you would hear her saying, I don't know why George is not talking to me anymore. I don't know why he's just walked away. Is that the way that you would tend to react, even in your personal life with people? When you don't get things your way, you switch off?
Maybe. That would be discreditable were it so, but it might be so. My problem with Rula is the problem I've just identified, that I ought to be, if I were a better politician, I would be able to persuade Rula that I was not bored with her, when in fact I was. My attitude to the nominating process was that we should eliminate the least interesting people first, and we'll be left with the most interesting people, by definition. I thought from the start, more or less, that the most interesting people were So in my mind, as everyone else had to, because you had to nominate,
Yes.
I decided, well, she, he are less interesting, God bless them, than she and he. And so from the outer level inwards, that was how it would work. Now, my problem was that Rula really liked me. And I found her perfectly pleasant but uninteresting. And therefore, I nominated her.
I mean, one of the things that you would find with, like you said, with interesting people is that they are vocal. And they then have this risk of, being heard, and either people will like you or they will not like you.
Sure.
And so therefore, most of the people were quite, explicit in what they said and were